Are we recording? There we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Office 365 Pulse. We have the full team here this week, which is great. Next week, we'll all be off traveling to different conferences, different events. But this week, we have a whole collection of updates for everybody. So we'll get started in the in development area. Now, this is where things are getting developed. They're getting built, probably changing up quite a bit. And we'll see if they make it on in development. We have quite a few in canceled this week. So, some things do go from in development to canceled, but we'll start there. And we're going to start with Adam because he's not typically been here. So we'll start with him and let him tell us about some of the admin and peer review things that are in development.
Yeah, so there's a decent amount of stuff going on. There's continued development around their insider risk management platform for the Purview Center. I saw one that I thought was kind of interesting. I'm going to have to look more into what this actually goes through and looks at, but it's enhancements to app and risky browsing activity evidence. And basically, the idea around this is if you have the appropriate permissions, you can go through and set up insider risk management to be looking for signals that are inadvertent from your users, such as IP theft, data leakage, and security violations. With the idea being, if your users are doing dumb things on the internet, you should know about it. I feel a little torn on this one. A lot of the stuff with the insider risk management, I think that are necessary evils with the concept of going through and being in a more remote workforce and having work from home being a lot more common and stuff like that. So doing stuff like having language that looks for manipulative or sexist behavior or looks for racist or bullying behavior, stuff like that, I feel like is using AI and intelligence for good to protect people, and obviously in ways that traditional forms could have maybe protected people in an office that you don't get when you're working remote. This one, again, how it's presented by Microsoft, which completely makes sense, is, hey, we're looking for inadvertent stuff that your users are doing that may be threatening stuff like intellectual property and stuff like that. But I feel like this is a jump, skip, and hop away from, oh, yeah, so did you know your user was like reading news for 20 minutes today and stuff like that? No idea if they'll actually go there, but I'm paranoid and, in general don't trust people and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see the direction they go with it. For the most part, I've been pretty behind the insider risk management stuff. I think my gut reaction was, oh, Big Brother bad. But the more I read about it and looked at the features and tested some about it myself, I thought, oh no, this is actually protecting people. This is a good thing. This was one of the another ones I read. And I was just like, well, is it? So I don't know. We'll be interested to see where that goes through and where it develops long term.
Well, I think it helps too, the fact that they're doing stuff like this, which will give groups that are not 5,000, 10,000, 100,000 person entities the opportunity to be able to do these kind of things, where right now going out and buying a $250,000 package to do just that is really out of the reach of all your 1-200 person operations, where now you get the license, a lot of this is rolled in. So I think that's a good thing for people who are looking at going that path, but they aren't big enough to pull it off.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, like I said, like if you read how they wrote the documentation, I agree that, hey, that would be a nice thing to have and we'll be going through and doing good. So I hope it follows that. The only other thing I'll mention is because I think it's pretty big from a security perspective, and I want everyone to be aware that this is going on because I think that this is nothing but a good thing from a cybersecurity relevancy for Office 365. They're updating the types of information that teams does in logs. So as you as an admin can go in and check activity of what's happening in Teams and what's going on. This is, coming in parallel with the new Teams client coming out to everyone and becoming available. But historically speaking, I don't know if anyone's ever tried to go through and look at all the actions of what's going on with Teams. Not a ton was captured. You could know if like a file was shared or something like that, which is really SharePoint logging that they're going through and pulling in. But the stuff that was related to conversations and stuff that was really Teams features, and honestly, to a certain extent, some Skype features were somewhat lacking. So as long as you're doing stuff like, oh, I have, retention policy on the tenant, or I've gone through and I have a legal hold on a specific user, you capture the messages that user was sending over, but there was still no like audit logging to say that user A had sent a message to user B and stuff like that. So there's a pretty large update coming out that's in development right now. They'll be going through, and it's basically new Teams logs for Microsoft Purview standard users, and that's listed a couple times. It's listed both for DoD, GCC, and GCC High for June, as well as worldwide standard for June. So obviously they're doing it with 2 entries, but it's the same thing. But if you go through and look, there's 15 new actions that it wasn't doing before. I'm not going to literally lead all 15 of them, but it's stuff like message sent, meeting details, message update, a chat sent, chat created, subscribe to messages, things like that. The type of stuff, other the actions your users are collaborating with and doing day to day, there's just going to be better audit logging around that to get an idea of what's going through and what's happening. And again, bottom line, like this isn't telling you what the information is, it's just logging, but that could actually be super beneficial to going through and getting on top of it. And one of the things that's become way more relevant for my team over the last year, we actually do a lot with managing Sentinel environments with customers. And if this data is in an audit log in 365, it can be captured in Sentinel, and you can write KQL playbook automations around it. So if you're looking for certain behaviors that you're worried about, or if there's threat actors that have done stuff and they have a similar pattern of behavior, you can start to script and automate some of the stuff in a cybersecurity way that again would have just literally been impossible before this updates were coming. So June of 2024 is when it's scheduled. It's still a bit out, but I see this as a good and beneficial expansion of cyber logging and auditing in Microsoft in a way that they didn't have before. That again is expected and good. So happy to see that.
Cool.
Great.
Well, Tamara, what do you think about what's in development?
I have 2 that get me all Twitter-pated. One is Microsoft Teams co-organizer updates in webinars. So co-organizers can now edit, or they'll be able to in December, can edit webinar details, publish the event, and cancel the event, similar to what the organizer does. So I'm excited about that. I would love to get more feature parity between the organizer and the co-organizer, so they can really work hand in hand. And then the other one that I thought was very interesting is OneNote. So we have a new notes tab when creating a standard Teams channel. I think this is getting rid of the wiki.
It is. Notice that in terms of the tags on this one, it's DoD, GCC, and GCC High. So I think we already have that in commercial.
So all the people at the children's table are coming up now.
Exactly.
So what it does is when creating a new standard channel, a new notes tab will automatically be created. And each team will have a dedicated OneNote workbook, and each channel will have its own section, making
Remember
it
how
easier.
we said, how come it doesn't work like this when it first came out? Remember when we all said that?
Yeah. Why they got this stupid wiki thing that if you remove it, it's gone?
Totally gone. Yeah.
So those are my 2 favorite things.
I think this probably works hand in hand too with the whole wiki migration thing that happens when you open up a wiki tab that's, legacy now. And it's like, hey, we're going to convert this to OneNote for you. And it does that. So I think this is all part and parcel of the same type of stuff. So they can truly say wikis are gone and everything is OneNote now. So.
Well, I have 2 quick ones, and then I'll pass it to Tom. He's anxious right now because we're taking all of his.
I'm a little concerned. She took one of them, so yeah.
The one I really like is the actionable card-based loop components in Outlook, because I was actually working on one of this the other day and thought this would actually be more useful if we could do something with it. So it's a Microsoft 365 app that supports link unfurling with an actionable card-based loop component. Outlook will show the component when inserting the supported links in the email message. So you can choose to do the embedded card or link when sending an email. So that's great, because if I want to give someone a link, 90% of the time I want them to take an action on them. And so having that in a loop component is going to be a really powerful thing. I'm looking forward to when loop just becomes super easy to do. Like I was trying to do something in a workflow the other day and it got so close, but so not there. So, and especially with the actionable cards, same thing. Like they're so close, but now that we're getting all these changes, I think it will be there. And then another one that I think will just be helpful to me and will make Jen Mason's life a little bit more efficient is in the Outlook, hide sent messages in conversation mode. So when I go to do a big conversation, I'm looking for something. I don't see all of the replies I've sent back. So I'm kind of excited about that because Outlook search right now is still one of those things. And when I say Outlook search, I mean searching, but I also mean the act of finding a previous email. That act is a little bit bothersome right now. And it's the one thing that makes me keep going back to the old Outlook versus the new Outlook is because I can't find something or it seems to think I'm going to put this at the top or something like that. And so it's very frustrating to me. So when I see these changes, I become happy again. And then I hope that, okay, well, this is not what we had before, but this is even better. And so I'm hoping that stuff keeps coming along. And so there's a couple of things there, but I don't want to take them all and make Tom sad in case he had other Outlook ones. So
But
Tom, take it away.
One of these weeks, I need to go through and pick my stuff purely based off what I think Tom wants to talk about, and then convince you to let me go first, just so if we can see like Tom slowly breaking down as we go through the list.
Smoke would start coming out of his head.
I have gotten really good at reading purview stuff in an announcer voice. So yeah, don't go down that path. I will handle it.
I love it.
Yeah, I did have all three of those Outlook things colored. You only took one of them. Thank you very much.
See, I was saving two for you.
I appreciate that. These are both due in January and it's supposed to go to everybody. One is organizing folders in your sidebar. And this is so users can arrange folders in any desired order effortlessly by dragging and dropping the folders in the position that they want. So I always like when they make drag and drop a viable option to be able to move things around instead of having to go, ellipsis up, ellipsis up, ellipsis up, ellipsis up. Let me drag and drop it. That works really well. The other thing is message reminders. And I don't know whether I'm really going to like this or I'm going to hate it. When Outlook identifies that a user could have forgotten to respond to or follow up on an email message, it could bring that email back to the top of the inbox, marking it as needing an action. A maximum of one email message can be brought to the top of the user's inbox at a time.
Just don't remove it.
Yeah.
There's too many coulds. Way too many coulds. It's never going to figure it out.
Yeah, it's like, so once it goes to the top of the inbox, how do I say, yeah, I'm fine with where it was at, put it back? I'm really not sure how that's going to play out, but in January, apparently I'll get a chance to see that.
But it's like
I'm less pessimistic about this. You guys are probably more organized than I am as a whole.
Yeah.
Like I tend to for sure work more than 40-hour weeks, and it's gotten to the point, I'm sure Jen, you can sympathize with this. My team's at the point now that I have 14 people on my team. All the time I get messages when I'm in the middle of meetings that need a reply that I don't think about till 7 hours later. Having a friendly automated system to say, hey, someone clearly asked a question, add an action item on here that you were supposed to respond to. We don't see that you've responded. Like, even if that only helps 1 out of every 10 times I get it, I'll still take it for that 1 out of 10 to make me not forget something. So
yeah, but they did the same thing with search where they put your top items on the top versus by doing it by date. And I have gotten so confused because once again, I'm looking for something and it's not where I think it should be. It's where Microsoft thinks it should be. And that just really messes with me. So I'm going to go with a little pessimistic on this one. I don't think I'm going to love it, but maybe I'll love it, but probably not. Probably not.
We will see.
Yeah.
I'll mention one more here.
Yeah, go for it.
And there's not a whole lot of information here, but I'm kind of interested to see where it goes. This is Microsoft Teams workflows in chat. So users will be able to configure workflows within their Teams chat, available only in the new Microsoft Teams experience. That's all they give us on this one. I don't know if this means that you can write workflows that you can trigger from within a chat. Should be nice. But yeah, just another way to do automation. If you
can already do this somewhat in Power Automate. So you
Yeah.
can do it in Teams off of Power Automate, but you couldn't do it off of Chats. So this
Okay.
probably is giving you a new interface and go to do. So for
Ah.
instance, this is a real life practical example that we did on this. So we were going through and trying to find a way to go through and track whether something had been done or not by people on our team and how we could go through and do it better. And the way that we ultimately went about going through and doing this was basically doing a power automation that you could go in and would trigger off of a certain keyword that when you went through and did it would create basically a planner task that got assigned appropriately.
Nice. Okay.
And so it was a way that we could say, like, for instance, if it was like, okay, say the account managers on our team has a follow-up from a customer and they need 3 different people to go through and do something, they could go into a team, and it had to be in a team, it couldn't be in a chat, and they could say, oh, to do this person, this is a task I need. And then rather than it just being a chat that you may forget about, again, this goes back to the reminding thing, rather than just being a chat that you may forget about, you then have a specific task tied to that item that if you don't do it in a day or two, like Planner will yell at you that you have an overdue task to go through and do. So I imagine this is bringing that same type of functionality where you could do workflows off like Power Automate and stuff. You can just trigger it from chats instead of having to be in a team meeting. And again, like, I could see as my team continues to grow having processes like that, because what I am trying to do now, and again, I'm sure this is a thing that's happened over and over and over and over and over and over in businesses, is I am trying to make it so that as my team and the business processes we have continue to grow, it's a similar experience for every customer, regardless of which tech that they're getting assigned to them, and knowing that like I can't touch everything anymore. Like,
right.
There's a certain limit to how many things that I can be involved in. So for some of our bigger customers, I'm still probably going to be moderately involved in the day to day. But we're at the point now that I think we're at something like 60 customers. Like I'm just doing good if I know that we have 60 customers, let alone all the problems with them. And so having stuff like that will help scale will be nice. Sorry, go ahead, Jen.
Yeah, and there's one of the ones in rolling out is a workflow app for teams. So this shouldn't be confusing because there's going to be one spot where all of our workflows that are done in teams are going to roll up to one location. So if you have stuff all over chats, you're not going to have to look and find where are all these workflows running. You're going to have one centralized thing. And that started to launch in October and is still launching. It's in the rolling out phases. So I think that goes hand in hand with the one that you just mentioned. It's the workflow app to do that. And I've got some developers I work with in-house, and I'll ask them, hey, this isn't working the way that I expected. And it usually ends up in a task for either myself or them. And it's usually done in a Teams chat. And then we have to go back and try to make sure it's in all of these other places. So I could see this as being a really helpful way to just get data to the right places when you have these ad hoc chats. So does anyone else have anything for in development? If not, then Tom, why don't you take one for rolling out?
Sure. So let's go ahead. I'm going to go back to Outlook here. Outlook, from the new Outlook for Windows, and this also may include the Outlook browser-based version. Client, yeah, just not happening. Open Word, Excel, and PowerPoint attachments in desktop apps. So from the new Outlook in Windows, users can now open Word, Excel, and PowerPoint attachments in their respective desktop applications by double-clicking them. Again, if you're used to working in the app as opposed to, the browser, this will be a really nice thing for you. Outlook, notifications for app mentions in mail and documents. So if your app mentioned in email, document, or a loop, you'll be able to get these notifications that will pop up on your screen. And if you're in Outlook, the little bell icon that you have up in the upper right corner will actually collect those. So if you're like, oh, I see that there's a number there, a badge, I can click on that and see what all the emails are that I've been mentioned in, which is a really nice way to easily get more focused if you've got like 150 emails you haven't gone through, which ones were I mentioned in, because that's probably something I have to look at. And finally, not that it will affect me because I rarely use my mobile device for email, but paste as plain text in iOS. You can now paste as plain text, removing all formatting with ease. And if you've ever gotten something, it's like, this is great data, and you paste it in and it looks like 1967 wants their website back because all the weird formatting going on with the underlying HTML. Having the plain text just to get it basically back to just the words, and then you can format from there if you want to. So that's supposed to be coming out this month, and it will be coming out to everybody.
Well, I just have one. So I'll do my one and then pass it to Tamara. But Teams controlled content meeting templates. And so this is if you're going to do an external meeting or something like that, you can have a template that defines who can present, who can record, who can do different things. And so this will really help administrators at a higher level keep control of the things. It's really, to me, in my mind, is helping with those accidental oopses where I let people in when I didn't want them to, or I did something I didn't want to because it was an external meeting and I just wasn't thinking about my settings. So I think that that's a great feature that's coming. That is in Teams Premium though. So that would be if you're using the premium features. So I think that one's a good one there. So Tamara, what do you have in rolling out?
Well, Tom, I can't remember. Did you already talk about the search experience?
No, I did not.
All right, Microsoft Teams, an improved search experience in chat and channels. So a new search experience is going to allow users to search in a specific chat or channel and reach relevant results faster. The results
Because
will appear
right now the search is just everything
every
at
chat.
the top, just everything.
Yep. So one of the nice things is the results will appear in the right-hand rail, so you can stay in the flow of your work. Enhancements like highlighted keywords will make it easier to scan the results.
Which is awesome.
So excited about this.
Yeah, I will say too, I
excited.
like that it's putting it in the right side. I like the Teams client a lot. My one complaint with Teams is like if you're having to hop around Teams, like for instance, if I go to a specific team and I'm going through to look at something and then I have to navigate back to a chat, when you go back to the Teams tab, you're not at the team you're looking at. You're just back at a giant list again. And like for context, Jen is gonna feel sympathy when I say this, Tamara potentially too. If we get statement of work requests from people to do them, we have a pretty robust built out system in Dynamics to do this, but it's involved with automations that trigger stuff that involves you to be a member of a team and it puts the files in that location and stuff. So if I'm ever going and trying to do statements of work for my salespeople, I have to like make sure I'm in the team, find the right team, join it. But then if like I get messaged by one of my coworkers needing something at any point during that process where I have to go back and respond to that chat, I have to start over from step one again because I'm no longer at the team. And like, and I really probably am at the point that I should just go and leave some teams. But I'm sure Jen is in the same way. I'm in like 150 teams in my organization because every time a sales
fully
request,
believe they're going to have a Teams cleanup process soon.
yeah,
Because if we're in 150 teams, imagine that they're in 350 teams.
Yeah. Well, especially too, like I said, so or even I would even settle with more stuff like what they announced in this feature, where it's like, hey, it'll give you the results without completely resetting what you're going through and doing in the client. That would just make my life easier.
And I wouldn't have to pin as many teams if that happened, if the search was better. But well, cool. Okay. Adam, what else do you have in rolling out? If you have anything?
One, and it's not even really admin-y. This is more personal experience. And if anyone has done this before, as soon as I start talking about this, you can be like, oh yeah, that's super shitty. So they are basically going through and working to improve the joining a Teams meeting experience from your mobile device. Specifically, they're doing this as a whole, but also whenever you're going through and doing it from an external thing. So they say that they're doing essentially three things: streamlining the meeting join process by reducing the number of steps it takes to join a meeting, particularly if the users are joining from an external organization. Users who join without signing in will now have the ability to preview, to preset, and review their video and audio settings prior to joining, and then simplifying the process with multiple accounts by having account switching being an option. I have to join meetings all the effing time. I join client meetings fairly often. I join meetings with partners fairly often. Like, it's something I'm sure we all do. Because of what my team does, we have some customers that are on the West Coast. So we try to support them as best as we can wherever we do. But it's not super uncommon that I'll have someone that wants to talk to me at 6 or 7 o'clock my time. Now, if it's something that's easy, which is like, hey, I can hop on a call real quick or join them on a meeting and say something, I'll do that every now and then if it's not something I expect to take a ton of time because I want to be helpful. But like my normal behavior when we're talking about like what I do most days, when I get off work, either my brother and I go and eat somewhere, or I'll even do a cigar to relax after work downstairs. So oftentimes I'm not at my computer. I'm either sitting downstairs doing a cigar in my man cave, or maybe at a restaurant. And joining from the phone on mobile into meetings, especially when you're joining external tenants, it just sucks. Like literally you go through, there's multiple steps. I've had to literally like use my brother's phone to copy like meeting codes, because it wants you to like put in a code on your phone to join. If they're wanting you to call in, it doesn't just join automatically, but like you can't leave the call and do that, or it won't register your input. So you basically need two screens to pull it off. And then automatically when you join, especially if you're joining an external entity, you just join with your webcam or your phone camera on, because it thinks by default you want to be on video. So imagine like my fat self with a cigar in my mouth joining a professional working. Like it just doesn't work. So I've gotten to the point when I'm doing that, like I literally join with it on my lap, so that way the camera is closed. So then I can close the camera and get my settings set the way that I want, and then like get ready for the meeting. But like the experience is shitty if you ever have to join off of mobile on Teams. It's just not great. So anything that they're doing to make that work a little bit better and make it a little bit easier, specifically the reducing step ones, because like I don't remember the exact process in my head, but it's a thing multiple times that like I've been asked like, oh, we have a customer that's upset and someone wants me to join a meeting, but I'm not at my house, and like trying to do it from like in the car while my brother's driving. And it's like, not only am I doing that, it's like, okay, cool, I need a code and I need a 1-800 number, and you have to enter them in back to back, but you can't leave your actual phone to go back and look at your Outlook or your Teams app to get what that code is. Or it's just been a nightmare. So them making that process better, I'm looking forward to.
Yay.
Well, cool. Well, Adam, do you want to walk us through the 2 that are launched, and then I'll walk us through the couple that are canceled?
Sure. Yeah. So obviously, very short on launch one today. We have 2 updates, actually both slated for October 2023 of this year. One of them is for the government clouds. One of them for standard. For the government clouds, they have Microsoft Intune, Accent on iOS and iPad OS. So basically, you can use the spacing's just weird on that, but you basically use Apple account-driven enrollment to onboard devices into Intune. That's now launched for GCC High and government. And what this basically means is if you have Apple accounts themselves, like your users have Apple IDs, if those Apple IDs are registered in your corporate Apple business account, you can actually enroll devices based off of the Apple ID. You could always do this with Apple Business Manager from a corporate perspective. Like I could buy iPhones from Apple and have them ship them to me, come enrolled in my Intune. But now you can do them set up specifically for individual users, where you can tie users like Apple logins or Apple accounts to their account in 365. So then when that phone comes in, it's already set up for that user. So just an additional step of customization, which is, again, kind of cool to see. And the second launched one is for Microsoft Preview Compliance Portal, new default retention for audit. And this is basically a default retention period when you're going through. It used to be 90 days. It's changing to 180 days. And if you have premium, it's going to stay at a year. So again, if you're using the retention period for what you're doing for audits, it's going from 90 days to 180 days. You're getting double the storage for free. So congrats.
Well, cool. On the canceled part, we have a couple. The first one is eDiscovery Predictive Coding Module, and that was going to allow people to stay within Purview and get information. It kind of looks to me like this one went out on a trial or went with a few people testing it out or doing whatever. They say they're not going to be releasing it now, and they'll provide an update when it comes later. So that one's there. And then the other couple there's 2 around APIs and approvals and AI and different things like that, and that's in Teams. So those are getting removed. There was a Teams AI library that was coming, and that's not going to be coming at this point. I am not at all worried about what that means, because AI is not going away. So that probably likely means they're just going to do it differently. And then things around approvals graph. So approvals from any application, they're changing up how they're doing that. So that will come at a later time. Again, that's a developer thing based on what people are trying to do with their apps. And then resource specific consent apps. And that's so it would allow people to based on the type of app, get it approved anyway to use the resources or do whatever in the environment without needing interaction. That's not coming at this time. And then finally, just some data center changes in the Israel region. They're putting a pause on the data center changes there. So those are our updates of what's canceled. I think they're cleaning up the roadmap prior to Ignite. So some of these ones that we're even seeing canceled could just be because we're going to see a new feature pop up in the same area coming up. So nothing too significant or crazy there, but that is our list for today. We are going to be out next week with all of us going to different events. So join us again in 2 weeks and we'll talk about the latest roadmap updates. Thanks,
and
everybody.
register for Ignite online if you haven't. It's free to attend. You can download sessions after the fact, even if you can't watch them at the time. And every now and then Microsoft does something like, oh, you registered for Ignite? Cool. You can have a free certification exam next year. So even if you don't have the time in your busy workday to do it, register for it. I go back and watch videos throughout the year. It's wonderful to have.
Great call out.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Well,